Okay, so after secondary school, I did my A levels at sixth form, but it was at the same school, and I took biology, geography, and art. I was kind of deciding whether to follow like a biological route or creative route. So I did an art foundation diploma course for a year, and decided that I did want to pursue sort of conservation and wildlife. Then I took a gap year because I still didn't feel like I was ready to go to university. So I nannied for a year, which was really good. It was it was obviously unrelated to the career I wanted to follow, but it was good in that it gave me lots of sort of life skills and helped me grow up a little bit before I went to university. So then whilst at university, I did international wildlife biology, which I absolutely loved. It was very broad, covering zoology, botany, animal behaviour, all the way to genetics, microorganisms, disease, climate change, all sorts of different things. So it meant that I could try out lots of like a variety of different subjects, but in quite a lot of detail as well, which was, yeah, kept it interesting, which was really, really good. So in my job, I do conservation and mapping. So communication is quite a big skill to have. So written and spoken. There's a little element of public speaking. So whether that's at events like open days, or sometimes you get asked to do like talks or give presentations. So being able to communicate effectively to lots of different types of people is quite a good skill to have. But then written's also really important for report writing, where I work, which is the Countryside Regeneration Trust. It's a farming and wildlife charity, and we've got a magazine that comes out twice yearly, and all the staff are sort of asked to write articles for that. So being able to communicate information about my job, but to the general public, you kind of need to be able to sort of, yeah, write for all different types of people, so it's easy to understand and accessible. Species identification is an important skill. It comes with practice. I wasn't able to identify all the species in Britain when I started my job, still can't, but you pick it up as you go along, really. So it's basically just by going out and doing the surveys, getting a good set of binoculars, some useful field guides. They can be really helpful for actually just learning on the job, basically. Oh, IT is quite important. So we know how to use Excel. A lot of my job is data entry and analysis. So going through all the data I collect through spring and summer. Time management is a good skill to have in this kind of job, because a lot of the time I'm working by myself, and there's a lot of stuff to do in the sort of busier periods like spring and summer, where there's loads of field work to get done, and it's quite important to not get behind in all the sort of data entry sort of stuff. And good observational skills. So when you're out and about surveying, you need to kind of be focused and concentrating, so you don't try not to miss anything, any potential records. So there's not really a typical day in this job, but it's sort of season dependent. So in winter, my job sort of entails a lot of desk-based stuff, so report writing, data analysis. Do have a bit of practical sort of fieldwork kind of stuff with volunteers. So I've got a group of volunteers, and in winter we can do more of the hands-on kind of hedge laying, copsing, tree planting kind of activities that you can't really do during the breeding season in sort of spring and summer. But generally winter's a lot more based sort of at my desk, working from home. Whereas in spring and summer, it's a completely different picture. It's very much out doing all the different types of surveys. So whether that's a bird survey, I'd leave at about half an hour after sunrise, so quite early, and you basically walk around the whole property, identifying every species of bird you see or hear and noting down their behaviour. And that's just how you figure out whether they're breeding, and then you can work out the number of different species that you have breeding on your property. There can also be butterfly surveys. So Butterfly Conservation Trust are running a scheme called UK butterfly monitoring scheme, and it's basically you walk a transect certain time each week between April and October, and yeah, basically count butterflies, which is great. My favourite bit about my job is probably working outside. I think it's got amazing benefits for your mental health and physical health. A lot of the time during the summer, it's quite hard work. Do a lot of walking, so get quite a few steps in. More on the mental side of things, it keeps me genuinely happy a lot of the time. So yeah, I'd say working outside is a really good benefit to this. But also there's a big variety in what I do. It's not really, no day is really the same. So that keeps it really interesting and challenging as well. I'm always learning. There's never a day where I'm not learning something. So that's really nice. The most challenging thing I find is probably I work alone a lot of the time. So you need to be very sort of self-motivated and okay, sort of just being in your own company and being able to organize your time. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the most challenging part for me. So some good websites and resources would be the CIEM website, which is Chartered Institute for Ecology and Environmental Management. And that has lots of courses on there. Some of them can be quite expensive, but I think they do free ones and maybe discounts to students as well. Then there's the Green Jobs website, which might be quite useful to just to have a browse through, just to sort of see the types of jobs that are out there. Even if you're not actually looking for a job, you're just looking to maybe study or look for a foot in the door into the industry, but it's quite useful sometimes to know what is actually out there. There's also conservation careers, which is a good one. And the Prospects website as well, that's got a good environmental job section. You can kind of get an overview of the types of careers that are out there and gives you advice on sort of how to get some experience as well. There's the Field Studies Council, which has loads of useful resources. It's from like field guides that you can take out with you to get some practice with your species ID. They cover all sorts of different groups of species. And they also do a range of different longer field guides as well, more in-depth, detailed stuff. I'd suggest looking at your local biological record centre. There's one for each county in England. It's kind of like a big database of all biological records. So any species that people see, they see on surveys or just when they're out and about, they could send them into this record centre and then you can get an idea of what's around. And they've got sort of reports as well, I believe. So that could be a useful thing to have a look at. We've actually got a range of blogs on our website. So if you head over to the Countryside Regeneration Trust, there's lots of articles and blogs written by staff members, which are accessible to the public. So that talks about certain projects that might be going on and success stories as well. So another piece of advice I would give is going out and volunteering for a local group. So for instance, if you live near one of the CRT properties, you can reach out to us. But if not, then there is likely a wildlife trust or a national trust that you can reach out to, and I'm sure they'd love to have you volunteer with them. It's a really good way to meet people that are sort of interested in wildlife and nature, and you might have people that volunteer for those organisations which are experts, or they might just be really enthusiastic about it. But either way, they're going to have lots of knowledge, and yeah, they're the kinds of people that will just really want to help as well, like give any advice. So I definitely, having volunteered for various organisations before I started this job, it was really helpful, and I would definitely recommend doing that. I would also find some local groups nearby, so mammal groups, botany groups, butterflies, whatever you're interested in, or if you don't know, just have a go at one of them and see whether you like it. So you can start learning about the different groups of species and the ways in which to identify them, whilst sort of chatting to people who are already in the industry. So yeah, that can be really, really helpful, and it's just quite nice and fun as well. Attending webinars is a good way to learn about different topics. So There's talks, online talks all the time, which are quite accessible to most people if you can't get into one in person. Ask questions. Find someone who is doing it for a career, or maybe a wildlife enthusiast, and just ask them lots and lots of questions. It's a great way of learning, and they're always willing to help. And try lots of different things out before you decide on a specific route to follow. So whether that's specializing in a certain species, I would keep things quite broad to begin with while you're just new to the conservation field. Figure out what you really find interesting and just do what you enjoy. That's sort of what I would suggest.